Good evening and thanks for joining us. The top stories today. Job numbers are out for last weekend. They beat expectations by a little. But as we'll see, there's still a long road ahead. Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden announced his economic proposal for this fall's presidential campaign. It's a $700 billion Buy American campaign. Major U.S. airlines are struggling and planning to furlough many more workers. Experts say this may be an opportunity for smaller airlines to increase their market share. And with mortgage rates at historic lows, mortgage applications are soaring. We caught up with the National Association of Realtors for an insider's perspective. Weekly jobless claims for last week hit just over 1.3 million, beating estimates by just a little. Continuing claims dropped 700,000 to around 18 million. I thought to myself, it's always good to beat estimates at least. Then I spoke with Julia Pollak at ZipRecruiter and she brought me back to reality. Here's what she had to say. Julia, thanks so much for joining us. Did you feel positive about the jobless numbers we saw this week so far?
No, the numbers this morning are very disappointing. There are still more than 2.3 million people applying for unemployment benefits each week if you include the federal program and the state unemployment insurance programs. And that is more than the total number of jobs the economy added in 2019. So each week now, for more than 16 weeks, we've been seeing more people apply for unemployment benefits than we typically see gain jobs in an entire year.
And have you been encouraged at all with how it's been kind of leveling out, or you think we're still a long way away from where we want to be?
Well, it's leveling off at incredibly high levels. The total number of people on state unemployment insurance benefits now is more than 10 times what it was before the crisis struck. In past recessions, it's grown only 2- or 3-fold. So this is just a massive, massive increase and shows the sort of huge extent of pain and heartbreak across the economy among people who've lost their jobs. If you look at other sources of data like Warren reports, I just pulled a couple for a number of the states today, there are still very, very elevated numbers of layoffs taking place in June and July across the economy.
And have we seen, is there particular geographic areas here in the United States that we even see anything positive in?
So this is the strange thing about this crisis. It is unprecedented in how swift it's been and how broad it's been geographically and across industries and in how deep it has been. So every single state in our data on ZipRecruiter has shown a double-digit decline in job postings, job openings, and there's really not that much variation across states. There are definitely places that have been harder hit, those states that rely heavily on employment in tourism and travel, leisure and hospitality, so places like Nevada and Hawaii and Florida have been particularly hard hit. And then some of the states that are usually hit worst in a recession, the states with big manufacturing centers, have been sort of remarkably resilient, but even those have seen massive declines in employment and huge spikes in applicants for unemployment benefits.
And how about in job openings? Do we see kind of some improvement there given the reopenings of the economy?
Well, here's something interesting. So in the Great Recession, job openings fell in half over the course of about 2 years. They've now fallen in this crisis by about 23 or 28% in the course of 2 months. They ticked upwards in Tuesday's data, but that is a notoriously volatile data series, so it's not really clear that job openings are recovering yet. But I suppose it was encouraging that they didn't fall further than they already had by April.
So even given the fact that the economy starting to reopen, you would assume that lots of businesses are starting to rehire again. The job openings is at a much lower level than it would be in normal times. Is that right?
Right, so all of the employment gains that we've seen in the recent jobs reports are accounted for by rehiring of people who are on temporary layoff. So in May, I think we saw 14% of the workers who were on temporary layoff the previous month getting recalled. In June, we saw an additional 31% being recalled. So that was pretty large and very encouraging. That said, the longer workers stay on temporary layoff, and there are still very many workers on temporary layoff, the smaller their chance of recall becomes. And so that is the real question now. 3-4 months into this crisis, should those job seekers, should those workers expect to go back to their jobs, or should they really start looking at new opportunities? And the time may have come for many of them to start searching for new jobs.
And have you seen any of these new opportunities in particular sectors?
Yes, I mean, there's, the economy, different sectors have been hit in different ways. One sector that has remained strong and that has actually seen growth is warehousing. E-commerce is booming right now. All brick and mortar stores that have been forced to close or to operate at a much lower capacity are trying to shift their operations very quickly to online shopping, online platforms. Online retailers have seen sales and usership and subscriptions skyrocket, and so that's really an area where there's a lot of growth, both for e-commerce specialists and web designers and people on the technical side, and for warehouse workers and delivery drivers.
Julia, thank you so much for your update. We'll catch you again soon.
Take care. Good talking with you.
And despite the incredible uncertainty in the market, mortgage applications are 33% higher than they were a year ago. Of course, mortgage rates are at record lows thanks to the Fed's rate cut. You can imagine the roller coaster ride for realtors from lockdown to boom. So we caught up with Lawrence Yoon earlier to find out. He's chief economist and senior vice president of research at the National Association of Realtors. Lawrence, thank you so much for coming on. I just wanted to ask you, how have realtors been trying to adapt during the pandemic?
Well, in the first couple of months of the pandemic during the lockdown, it was quite difficult. First, there was a concern over the health risk, but also the buyers just not being in the market, very few listings. But as the economy steadily reopened, there is a burst of listings popping out, and the buyers are rushing in, trying to take advantage of the record low mortgage rates.
Yeah, I've seen that the mortgage applications are definitely on the rise. Have you seen across the country this has kind of helped with demand?
The demand is exceptionally strong, far higher than what I anticipated, because July activity are actually running better than last year July, because in 2019 it was considered a very good, respectable year, but here we are in the midst of the pandemic, sales activity appearing to be stronger than last year's figures.
It is quite incredible. And have you seen any unusual or new trends? Have we seen any kind of deurbanization or these types of things?
Well, we recently took survey of our members about their clients, and it's showing that about 80% of clients are pretty much similar activity, meaning that if they prefer urban location, they are continuing to prefer that. But a shift of 20%, principally away from urban to suburban, or possibly even a small town or rural communities, larger size home, because they want to have a dedicated home office, or more family members are living together. So we are definitely seeing some shift towards away from the city and towards larger size homes.
And do you think it will be enough to affect the prices in both of these two areas?
The situation before the pandemic was we had a housing shortage, just not enough inventory to meet the demand. And what has happened during the pandemic is that, interestingly, we have even fewer listings, while the buyers are trying to take advantage of the record low mortgage rates, and hence prices are being pushed up pretty much across the board. only exception is maybe the New York City area or San Francisco, where the prices were already high, and maybe some people are desiring to look for suburban locations. But across the board, we are seeing strength in home price appreciation.
And do you expect this to continue with all of the different economic changes, and do you expect the prices to continue rising?
The one big factor helping the housing market is the stimulus support, not only in terms of the record low mortgage rates, but a lot of income support for small business owners, the unemployment insurance checks, which was enhanced. So once the stimulus measures are steadily pulled away, is the economy strong enough on its own? I mean, there are some job creation with economic reopening, but if somehow the job creation pace is slow and the stimulus package is pulled out, then we could run into some complications.
Can imagine. So it's so uncertain for everybody, and of course we've all been observing social distancing. We've all had changes to our lives. How have realtors managed to get through it?
So a lot of virtual showings, meaning that people are at home searching through their internet, and they can ask their realtors to say, can you turn right, and I want to see the living room or that corner of the kitchen. So it's almost live streaming of the home without actually doing the physical visit. One big change is that before the pandemic, generally home buyers like to view about a dozen homes physically. But during the pandemic, people are doing a lot of online searching, but for the final decision, they still want to make that physical visit. So they do about one or two final physical visit, but social distancing, mask on, certainly the home buying process is much safer than, say, going to the grocery store with far fewer people involved.
It's so true. And have your members found it harder to close sales, or has it been okay?
Initially, it was a little difficult because one could not go to the office and get all those contracts. Sometimes you have to do it in the parking lot. But now with the wider prevalence of electronic signatures, the drive-by appraisal process, meaning somebody does not need to physically go inside the home in many cases. So a lot of innovation involved in the real estate transaction process, which has greatly helped during this pandemic period.
Very interesting, Lawrence. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you for inviting me.
U.S. legacy airlines are struggling to survive the slowdown. Now, some are warning they will have to furlough more employees. But some say this could give smaller airlines a chance to increase their market share.
Large U.S. airlines like United, American, and Delta are planning to furlough a big portion of their workforce this fall. This may lead to higher labor costs as the legacy airlines have to furlough union workers in reverse order of seniority, meaning lower salary workers will be the first to go, creating a higher labor cost per seat mile and possibly higher airfares for the large carriers. But smaller airlines like Southwest may gain a competitive edge with lower cost structures and cheaper fares. Labor will be the single biggest cost for airlines trying to stay in business after the pandemic. Low-cost carriers also have another advantage. Their flight network is usually focused on domestic travel, where demand is seen rebounding first. Larger carriers, on the other hand, make most of their profit on business and international travel, where demand has collapsed since the virus outbreak. United Airlines says it will send furlough warnings to nearly half its workers. That's 36,000 union workers. This comes after only 10% of its staff signed on for early exit deals. American Airlines is working on its own early exit program, but warns it may be overstaffed by 20,000 airline workers come this fall. Exit deals for United include travel and health benefits, but no cash. At Southwest, their exit deals include a buyout. The airline is trying to avoid its first furlough in its 49-year history. Right now, tens of thousands of airline workers are receiving a weekly unemployment check of $600 from the Fed, but that benefit is set to expire this month. Congress will resume talks in a couple of weeks about a second virus relief package.
Joe Biden just launched his economic pitch for this fall's presidential campaign. He proposed a $700 billion Buy American campaign. It would use the Fed's spending power to boost U.S. manufacturing and technology firms. Biden proposes a tightening grip on Buy American laws that are meant to benefit U.S. companies. His campaign touts promises to improve workers' bargaining rights and to repeal Republican-backed tax breaks for U.S. firms. And up next, Amazon says it will require sellers in the U.S. to list their names and addresses publicly. It could help combat counterfeiting. And Tesla is getting closer to developing a car capable of operating itself. That and more after the break.
Our investigative reporters at the Epoch Times have spent 18 months uncovering the biggest political scandal in modern history. We connected the dots around Spygate, the actions by Obama-era officials against Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Join me on Declassified as we bring you up-to-date developments on this unfolding scandal.
Starting September 1st, Amazon will no longer allow anonymous sellers in the U.S. All third-party sellers must display their business name and address on their seller profile. It's long been required in Europe, Japan, and Mexico. Now it'll start in the U.S., Amazon's oldest and biggest marketplace.
Amazon will require third-party sellers in the U.S. to publicly list their names and addresses starting September 1st. Amazon's marketplace accounts for about half of the company's overall sales. In a statement, Amazon said the change is about consistency and transparency. Consumers will be able to make informed shopping decisions. Amazon said it spent $500 million last year fighting fraud, abuse, and counterfeit products. It also launched the Project Zero initiative, which introduced a variety of tools to combat counterfeiting. Earlier this year, the company started verifying seller identities through video call. They claim to have taken down 2.5 million accounts and shut down 6 billion suspicious listings. These actions come after constant pressure from the Trump administration and lawmakers to crack down on online fraud. In January, the Department of Homeland Security released a 54-page report on combating counterfeits, singling out online marketplaces like Amazon. Sellers were already required to provide their information to Amazon, but this new rule will make it public to buyers as well. This will reduce the wide selection of products Amazon is known for, but will filter out fraudulent listings.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk says the company is very close to developing a fully autonomous driving system. He says he's confident it could be done before the end of the year.
Electric car maker Tesla is very close to achieving Level 5 autonomous driving technology. This is according to its CEO, Elon Musk. Level 5 means a car is able to navigate roads without driver input.
I remain confident that we will have the functionality the basic functionality for Level 5 autonomy complete this year.
Musk made the remarks in a video message at a tech conference in China. There are 6 levels of autonomous driving, with Level 0 being no automation. Level 5 is full automation, where a car operates by itself without input from a human driver. Automakers and tech companies, including Alphabet's Waymo and Uber, are investing billions in the autonomous driving industry. The California-based automaker currently builds cars with an autopilot driver assistance system. Industry data showed Tesla sold nearly 15,000 China-made Model 3 sedans last month. It's become the highest valued automaker. Tesla shares surged to record highs, and its market capitalization surpassed Toyota's.
And up next, German state prosecutors investigate Wirecard for suspected money laundering. And Google reportedly scrapped a plan to provide cloud service in China. Just showcases the challenges US tech companies face in countries that keep a tight control over their user data.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
In China, something can be illegal, but still in common practice. For example, bribery, or intellectual property theft, or Uber.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people and counting. I'm a little freaked out that many people have seen my face.
Hey, have you heard of China Uncensored? It's starring me.
It's more and more obvious that China is having a major influence on the US.
Hey, have you heard of China Uncensored? 中国揭秘.
In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the only show on TV or the internet. It will be the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Have you heard of China Uncensored?
Yeah, I have.
You actually have? He's heard of China Uncensored.
I love China Uncensored.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interests, and we never will be. The Epoch Times is a non-partisan media. That means we don't stand for any political party. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
German state prosecutors are investigating Wirecard for suspected money laundering. It follows a number of criminal complaints over the past few years. Wirecard was considered a German success story, once worth $28 billion. Filed for insolvency last month, owing creditors almost $4 billion after disclosing a $2 billion hole in its accounts. Its auditors said it's the result of a sophisticated global fraud. Some of the world's biggest investors held shares in the company before it was exposed as owing its success to a web of sham transactions. Authorities have been criticized for their hands-off approach. And Google has reportedly abandoned its plan to offer a new cloud service in China. It sheds light on the challenges U.S. companies face in countries that keep a tight control over user data.
Bloomberg News reports that Google canceled plans to offer a new cloud service in China and some other politically sensitive countries. It cited 2 employees familiar with the matter. The project was shut down in May, and the employees said that's partly due to geopolitical tensions and the pandemic. But a Google spokeswoman denied the reasons. She also said Google isn't weighing options to offer a cloud platform in China. In China, foreign cloud service providers have to partner up with a local company. In such a relationship, the partner company will keep control over user data. The scrapped initiative was part of a larger project called Sharded Google. The goal of this project is to create data infrastructure that's fully walled off from the rest of the company's network. Google is trying to expand its presence in cloud computing. Last year, Google Cloud generated nearly $9 billion in revenue. That's more than a 50% increase compared to the previous year.
And up next, the UK launches a new discount program to support the restaurant industry. You want to stick around to see what the finance minister did to promote it.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Hello there. Doesn't it feel like we're moving further away from the very values that our republic was built upon? And the media in our country has just been adding fuel to the flame, which is why you need to try the Epoch Times. It's pure, honest journalism that's restoring traditional values, and it reports the news with no spin, no hidden agendas, and no false narratives. So if you want to know the truth about the FISA abuse that took place during the 2016 election, or how socialist and communist ideologies have been infiltrating our society, or how the Chinese Communist Party's cover-up led to this global outbreak, and so much more, then you need to check out the Epoch Times. And for a limited time, you can try the paper yourself for a full month for just $1, and we'll send you a very special free gift. A giant timeline that's 3 feet by 4 feet, documenting the FBI's abuse of FISA spy warrants. So go to readepoch.com and claim yours today.
The UK's finance minister is going to new lengths to support the restaurant industry. He waited on tables in London to promote a new discount program.
Britain's finance minister turned his hand to waiting tables at a London restaurant. He's promoting a huge discount program just launched called Eat Out to Help Out. It aims to boost spending at restaurants hurt by the pandemic.
It's a novel policy. We haven't done something like that here before, but I think these are unique circumstances. They demand a different response. There are 2 million people who work in these industries. I want to try and protect as many of those jobs as possible.
It gives diners a 50% discount of up to £10 per head, or over $12, on their meal between Monday and Wednesday throughout August. The discount can be used unlimited times in August. It's a bid to encourage people to dine out throughout the week, not just on the weekend. The discount does not apply to alcohol. He says the furlough can't go on forever.
Not everyone will be able to return to the jobs that they had. They should also be able to prepare for a new future. But we want to reward and incentivize employers who do the right thing and can bring their employees back successfully from furlough.
Britain's food industry employed 1.8 million people before the crisis. It has suffered thousands of job cuts, and some big chains announced layoffs. There was also a temporary cut in sales tax from 20% to 5% for eat-in or hot takeout food.
That's the latest business updates for now. Thank you for tuning in, and see you tomorrow. I'm Paul Graney.